When I opened that old shoebox in my daughter's attic, I thought I was just helping her organize before her move. Inside were school papers, old photos, typical teenage memories. But at the bottom was a small notebook with a purple cover. My daughter's diary from when she was 16 years old, 30 years ago. I should have closed it and put it back, should have respected her privacy even decades later, but I didn't. I opened it and started reading, and with every page, my heart broke a little more because my daughter had been suffering terribly, drowning right in front of me, and I had been completely oblivious. My name is Nanny. I'm 71 years old now, and this is the story of how I discovered I had failed my daughter when she needed me most. How I had been so focused on being a good mother that I missed all the signs she was falling apart, and how I've carried that guilt every single day since reading those pages. My daughter Rebecca is 46 years old now, successful lawyer, married to a good man, two wonderful kids. From the outside, she turned out great, despite whatever she went through as a teenager. But reading that diary showed me the cost, showed me what she survived, what she had to overcome, and it showed me how badly I had failed her when she was 16 years old. I need to go back to give context. Rebecca's father, my husband Tom, died when she was 12. Heart attack, sudden, no warning. One day he was coaching her soccer team, the next day he was gone. It devastated both of us. Tom had been my high school sweetheart. We got married young. He was my whole world. And losing him felt like losing half of myself. But I had a 12-year-old daughter who needed me, so I didn't have time to fall apart. I had to be strong, had to keep working to support us, had to maintain the house, pay the bills, be both mother and father. I thought I was doing a good job. I thought I was holding our family together through an impossible tragedy. Rebecca seemed to handle her father's death as well as could be expected. She cried at the funeral, was quiet for a few weeks, but then she went back to school, back to soccer, back to her normal life. I thought she was resilient, thought she was coping. I was proud of how strong she was being. Looking back now with the knowledge from that diary, I realized she wasn't coping at all. She was drowning, and I was too wrapped up in my own grief and survival mode to notice. The teenage years were difficult. Rebecca became more withdrawn, spent a lot of time in her room. Her grades dropped a bit, but nothing alarming. She quit soccer, which I thought was just her losing interest. She started wearing baggy clothes all the time. She ate dinner quickly and then disappeared to her room. Normal teenage behavior, I thought. She's just becoming more independent, just going through typical adolescent changes. I worked a lot during those years. I was a nurse at the hospital, working long shifts to make ends meet after Tom died. His life insurance helped, but it wasn't enough to fully support us. So I picked up extra shifts, worked nights sometimes, worked weekends. I was exhausted all the time, but I kept going because that's what you do as a single mother. You provide. You survive. When I was home, I tried to be a good mother. I made sure Rebecca did her homework, made sure she was keeping her room clean, made sure she was following the rules, made sure she was going to bed at a reasonable time. I thought structure and discipline were what she needed. Thought I was being a good parent by maintaining standards and expectations. But according to her diary, all of that just made her feel more alone, made her feel like I cared more about rules than about her, made her feel like she had lost both parents the day her father died, not just one. Last year, Rebecca and her family were moving to a bigger house across town. She asked if I could help her pack up some things in her attic, boxes of old memories she hadn't looked at in years. I said, of course. I went over on a Saturday morning and we started going through decades of accumulated stuff. Most of it was trash. Old school papers, broken toys, clothes that didn't fit. We filled garbage bags and donation boxes. But there were also treasures. Photos of Rebecca as a baby with Tom, her old soccer trophies, art projects from elementary school. We laughed and cried going through it all. It was a nice morning together. Rebecca had to leave around noon to take her kids to their activities. She said I could keep going through boxes if I wanted, just leave anything I wasn't sure about and she would look at it later. So I stayed, kept sorting through the attic while she was gone. That's when I found the shoebox. It was tucked in the back corner, covered in dust. Inside were papers from high school, old report cards, some photos. And at the bottom, a small purple notebook, the kind teenage girls use as diaries. It had a little lock on it, but the lock was broken.
I held it in my hands, debating what to do. This was Rebecca's private diary from 30 years ago. I had no right to read it, but curiosity got the better of me. She was 46 years old now. Surely whatever teenage drama was in there didn't matter anymore. Surely it was just normal stuff about boys and friends and school. I opened to the first page. It was dated September 15th, 1993. Rebecca would have been 16, a junior in high school, 4 years after Tom died. The first entry started with, "I don't know why I'm starting this diary. I guess I need somewhere to put all the thoughts I can't say out loud. Somewhere to be honest about how I really feel. Because I can't tell Mom. She wouldn't understand. She's too busy being strong to notice that I'm falling apart." My hands started shaking as I read those words. Too busy being strong to notice she was falling apart? That was how my daughter felt? While I thought I was holding our family together, she felt like I wasn't noticing her at all? I kept reading. The entries started coming more frequently. Every few days she would write. And with each entry, my heart broke more. Because my daughter hadn't been okay at all. She had been suffering in ways I never imagined, and I had missed all of it. There were entries about her father, about how much she missed him, how she would cry herself to sleep at night thinking about him, how she felt guilty for laughing or being happy because he was gone, how she felt like she was forgetting what his voice sounded like, how she was terrified she would forget him completely. I had no idea she was struggling with grief like that. She never talked about Tom after the first few months. I thought that meant she had processed it and moved on. But really, she had just stopped talking about it because she thought I couldn't handle it. She wrote, "Mom seems like she's barely holding it together. I can't add to her burden by crying about Dad. I have to be strong for her." My 16-year-old daughter thought she had to be strong for me, thought she couldn't grieve her own father because I was too fragile. While I was trying to be strong for her, she was trying to be strong for me. We were both suffering in silence, each trying to protect the other, and in the process, we both suffered alone. There were entries about school. This is where the diary got really dark, really scary, because my daughter had developed an eating disorder, and I had no idea. She wrote about skipping breakfast, then skipping lunch, then eating tiny portions at dinner and then immediately going to her room. She wrote about feeling powerful when she was hungry, about feeling like controlling her food was the only thing she could control in her life, about the satisfaction of seeing the number on the scale go down. She wrote about standing in front of the mirror and hating what she saw, pinching her stomach and thighs and arms, counting calories obsessively, exercising in her room at night. She wrote about feeling dizzy at school, about her period stopping, about her hair falling out, all classic signs of anorexia, and I never noticed. I remembered her wearing baggy clothes during that time. I thought it was just a fashion phase. Grunge was in. Oversized flannels and baggy jeans were what all the kids wore. I never thought she might be hiding her body because she was losing dangerous amounts of weight. I remembered her eating quickly at dinner and then leaving. I thought she just wanted to get back to her homework or her phone or whatever teenagers did in their rooms. I never thought she might be going to her room to do more exercises, to burn off the calories she had just consumed.
One entry from October talked about a doctor's appointment. I had taken her in for a regular checkup. The doctor asked if she had been eating enough because she had lost weight since her last visit. Rebecca lied and said she was eating fine, just going through a growth spurt. The doctor seemed satisfied. I was right there in the room, and I backed up her lie without even realizing it. Said, yes, she's eating fine. She's just always been thin. But in her diary that night, Rebecca wrote, I almost told the doctor the truth today. Almost admitted I haven't eaten a real meal in weeks. But then Mom would find out and she would be so disappointed in me. She already has so much to deal with. I can't add this to her plate. I'll handle it myself. Reading that made me physically ill. My daughter had been starving herself, and I was in the room when a doctor asked about it. If I had been paying attention, if I had really been looking at her, I could have gotten her help right then. But I was too distracted, too overwhelmed with my own life, too focused on just getting through the day, and she suffered because of my neglect. There were entries about self-harm. This was the part that made me have to put the diary down for a few minutes because I was crying too hard to see the words. My daughter had been cutting herself, and I never knew. She wrote about finding a razor blade, about how the physical pain felt good because it distracted from the emotional pain, about how seeing blood made her feel real again, about hiding the cuts under long sleeves and pants, about the shame she felt afterward, about promising herself she would stop and then doing it again a few days later. I never saw any scars, never noticed her always wearing long sleeves even in summer, never questioned why she stopped wearing shorts, never saw any blood on her clothes or bandages in the trash. I was that oblivious, that absent. My daughter was literally cutting herself, and I never noticed. There were entries about suicidal thoughts. This was the worst part, the part that made me realize how close I came to losing her, how easily I could have come home one day to find her dead, and I would have had no idea why. Would have thought it came out of nowhere, would have never known she had been planning it for weeks. She wrote about different methods, about pills in the medicine cabinet, about the bridge over the river near our house, about her father's old hunting rifle in the garage. She wrote about researching how to do it, about writing suicide notes and then tearing them up, about setting dates and then chickening out. One entry from November said, I'm going to do it this weekend. Mom will be working Saturday night. I'll wait until she leaves for her shift. I'll take the pills from her bathroom. I'll leave a note on my bed. I'll finally be with Dad again. I'll finally stop feeling this way. Mom will be sad at first, but she'll be better off without me. One less thing to worry about. One less mouth to feed. I'm just a burden anyway. But then the next entry, dated the following Monday, said, I couldn't do it. I got the pills. I wrote the note. I sat on my bed ready to take them. But then I thought about Mom finding me when she got home from work. Thought about her having to deal with losing both of us. Thought about her being completely alone. And I couldn't do that to her. So I put the pills back, tore up the note. I'm going to keep trying to survive for her, even though it hurts. I sat in that attic, reading those words and sobbing. My daughter had almost killed herself, had been minutes away from taking pills, and the only thing that stopped her was not wanting to hurt me. Not because she wanted to live, not because she thought things would get better, but because she didn't want me to be alone. And I had been completely unaware. That Saturday night, I worked my shift at the hospital, came home around midnight, peeked in her room, and she was asleep. Everything seemed normal. I never knew that hours earlier she had been on the edge of ending her life. How many other times had she been that close? How many other nights had I thought everything was fine while she was fighting to survive? The thought made me physically ill. There were entries about loneliness, about feeling like she had no one to talk to. She had friends at school, but felt like she was wearing a mask around them, pretending to be okay when she wasn't. She wrote about wanting to talk to me, but not knowing how, about starting conversations and then losing her nerve, about feeling like there was this wall between us she couldn't break through. She wrote, sometimes I wish Mom would just notice, would just see that I'm not okay, would just ask me what's wrong and actually wait for the real answer instead of accepting I'm fine. But she's always so busy, always so tired, always so stressed. There's never a good time to fall apart. So I just keep pretending, keep smiling, keep saying I'm fine, and she believes me because it's easier than dealing with the truth. That entry destroyed me because she was right. I was always busy, always tired, always stressed. And when I asked if she was okay and she said fine, I accepted it because I didn't have the energy to dig deeper, didn't have the capacity to handle one more problem. I took her I'm fine at face value because it was convenient, because it let me keep focusing on work and bills and survival instead of really looking at my daughter. There were entries about me, about how she felt like I had become a different person after Tom died. Colder, more distant, more focused on rules and responsibility than on love and connection. She wrote, I miss the mom I had before Dad died. That mom laughed. That mom hugged me just because. That mom asked about my day and actually listened to the answer. This mom just checks off boxes. Did you do your homework? Is your room clean? Did you eat? She's making sure I'm alive, but she doesn't see that I'm barely living. Reading that felt like being stabbed because she was right. I had become colder after Tom died, had put up walls to protect myself from the grief, had focused on practical things because emotions were too messy, had become a checklist parent instead of an emotionally present parent. And my daughter had noticed, had felt the difference, had mourned the loss of not just her father, but also the mother she used to have. There were entries that showed she understood, at least intellectually, that I was grieving too. She wrote, "I know Mom is sad about Dad. I know she's doing her best. I know she's working so hard to take care of us. I don't want to be ungrateful, but I need her. I need my mom. And she's physically here, but emotionally she's gone. We're both ghosts living in the same house." The diary went through her entire junior year of high school, 16 years old. From September through June, 9 months of entries detailing her depression, eating disorder, self-harm, suicidal thoughts, and desperate loneliness. 9 months of her suffering right under my roof, right in front of me, and I missed all of it. The entries did get a little better toward the end of the school year. She wrote about starting to eat a bit more, about the cutting becoming less frequent, about the suicidal thoughts fading, not because anything had changed in her circumstances, not because she got help, but because she just survived, just endured until the worst of it passed. She wrote in June, "I made it through this year. I'm still here. I'm still alive. Maybe that's enough. Maybe I don't have to be happy. Maybe I just have to survive. Senior year starts in a few months. One more year, and I can go to college, start over somewhere new, become someone new, just have to make it one more year." And she did make it. She survived her senior year, went to college, eventually got therapy in her 20s when she realized she needed it, built a life for herself despite the trauma of those teenage years. But reading that diary showed me the cost, showed me what she had to overcome, what she survived alone, what she carried with her into adulthood. I sat in that attic for hours, reading every page of that diary, some entries multiple times, trying to understand how I missed it all, trying to figure out what I should have seen, what I should have known, what I should have done differently. When I finished, I carefully put the diary back in the shoebox, put everything back exactly how I found it. Rebecca never knew I read it, never knew I discovered her teenage suffering 30 years later. I drove home that day in a daze, kept seeing images from the diary in my mind. My daughter standing in front of the mirror, hating herself. My daughter hiding cuts under long sleeves. My daughter sitting on her bed with pills in her hand, contemplating death, all while I was at work or sleeping or too distracted to notice. For weeks after reading that diary, I was a mess. Couldn't sleep. Kept having nightmares about finding Rebecca dead. Kept thinking about all the signs I missed, all the moments I failed her, all the time she needed me, and I wasn't there. I wanted to talk to her about it, wanted to apologize for everything, wanted to explain that I had been so wrapped up in grief and survival that I wasn't present for her. But I couldn't, because then she would know I read her private diary, would know I had violated her privacy, even if it was decades old. And our relationship was good now. I didn't want to damage it by admitting what I had done.
So I carried the knowledge alone, carried the guilt, carried the grief of knowing I had failed my daughter when she needed me most. I went to therapy myself to deal with it. Had to talk to someone or I was going to fall apart. My therapist helped me understand that I was doing the best I could at the time, that I was a grieving widow trying to survive and raise a child alone, that depression in teenagers can be hard to spot even for professionals, that eating disorders are designed to be hidden, that I shouldn't blame myself for not seeing what Rebecca worked so hard to conceal. But understanding intellectually that I did my best doesn't make the guilt go away, because my best wasn't enough. My daughter suffered terribly, and I didn't save her. I didn't even know she needed saving. My therapist also pointed out that Rebecca survived, that she got through it, that she built a good life despite the trauma, that she clearly didn't blame me, or she wouldn't have maintained a relationship with me, that I needed to focus on being present for her now instead of drowning in guilt about the past. But how do you be present when every time you see your daughter, you're thinking about her 16-year-old self crying alone in her room? How do you hug her without remembering she used to cut herself? How do you share a meal without thinking about how she used to starve herself? The knowledge from that diary changed how I see her, changed how I see our entire history together. I started noticing things in our past that made more sense now. Photos from her high school years where she looked thin, too thin. How did I not see that at the time? Clothes she wore that hid her body, long sleeves in summer, baggy everything. How did I not question that? Report cards with declining grades, teachers' comments about her seeming distracted or withdrawn. How did I not investigate further? How did I just accept surface explanations without digging deeper? There was one photo I found from her junior year, a school dance. She was wearing a long sleeve dress that covered everything. She was smiling, but her eyes looked empty, dead. I remembered taking that photo, remembered thinking she looked pretty, telling her to smile, and she did. She smiled for the camera while dying inside. And I just snapped the picture and moved on with my day. I also started understanding some of her behaviors as an adult that never made sense before. She's always been very private about her body, never comfortable in bathing suits or short sleeves. I thought she was just modest. Now I wonder if she has scars she's hiding, reminders of what she went through that I never knew about. She's always been hyper aware of mental health, very open about going to therapy, very supportive of her own kids' emotional well-being, asks them constantly how they're really doing. I thought she was just a conscientious mother. Now I realize she's making sure her kids don't suffer in silence the way she did. She's never been close with me in the way some mothers and daughters are. We have a good relationship. We talk regularly, we see each other often, but there's always been this distance, this wall.
I used to think it was just her personality, that some people aren't as emotionally open. Now I realize the wall was built when she was 16, and I wasn't there for her, and it never fully came down. About 6 months after I read the diary, I was having lunch with Rebecca, just the two of us. She was telling me about something her teenage daughter was going through, friend drama at school. Rebecca was handling it so well, really listening to her daughter, creating space for her to talk, being emotionally present in all the ways I wasn't, and watching her be such a good mother to her own daughter made me start crying right there in the restaurant. Rebecca was alarmed, asked what was wrong, and I almost told her, almost confessed that I had read her diary, that I knew what she went through, that I was sorry for failing her, but I didn't. I just said I was proud of her, proud of the mother she had become, proud of how emotionally available she was for her kids. She looked touched, but also confused by my sudden emotion. We finished lunch and went home, and I never explained. The guilt has gotten a bit easier over the past year. The therapy helped, time helped, but it's still there. Every time I see Rebecca, every time we talk, I'm carrying this knowledge that she doesn't know I have, this secret window into her worst suffering that I discovered 30 years too late. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I had found that diary when she was 16. If I had read it in real time instead of decades later, would I have gotten her help? Would I have pulled her out of that spiral before it got so bad? Or would I have been too overwhelmed to help her survive? I'll never know. All I know is that I missed it. I failed to see my daughter drowning right in front of me, failed to ask the right questions, failed to look past the surface, failed to be the mother she needed during the worst time in her life. Rebecca's 46 now and doing well. She's successful, happily married, a wonderful mother to her own kids. She's in therapy, which she's open about. She's done the work to heal from her trauma. She survived despite me, not because of me, and that's a hard truth to live with. I thought about telling her I read the diary, thought about apologizing for everything, thought about asking if there's anything I can do now to make up for failing her then. But I'm afraid. Afraid she'll be angry I violated her privacy. Afraid she'll be hurt by dredging up painful memories. Afraid she'll confirm what I already know, that I failed her when she needed me most. My therapist says I need to forgive myself, says I was doing my best in impossible circumstances, says I can't change the past, but I can be better now. Says the fact that Rebecca and I have a good relationship now shows she's made peace with her childhood, even if I haven't. But how do you forgive yourself for not noticing your child was suicidal? How do you forgive yourself for not seeing your daughter starve herself? How do you forgive yourself for being physically present but emotionally absent during the most critical years of her life? I look at photos of 16-year-old Rebecca now, and I see all the signs I missed. The dead eyes, the fake smile, the baggy clothes hiding her shrinking body, the way she seemed to fold in on herself in every picture. It's all so obvious now. How did I not see it then? I think about the mother I was in those years after Tom died, working constantly, exhausted all the time, emotionally shut down, going through the motions of parenting without really being present. making sure Rebecca had food and shelter and rules, but not giving her what she really needed: connection, attention, emotional support. I thought I was being strong for her, thought I was holding our family together, but what I was really doing was surviving at the cost of truly living, and Rebecca paid the price for that. She lost her father and then effectively lost her mother, too. I was physically there, but emotionally gone. A ghost in my own house, just like she wrote in her diary. The worst part is she never told me, never asked for help, never gave me a chance to do better. She protected me from her pain because she thought I couldn't handle it. A 16-year-old child protecting her parent instead of the other way around. That's how badly I failed. My daughter didn't feel safe falling apart in front of me, didn't trust me to catch her, so she suffered alone. I've tried to be better with my grandchildren, Rebecca's kids. I'm very present with them. I ask how they're really doing. I pay attention to changes in behavior. I create space for them to talk about their feelings. I'm trying to be the grandmother I wish I had been as a mother. But being good with my grandchildren doesn't erase failing my daughter, doesn't undo the damage, doesn't give Rebecca back those years of suffering. It's too late for do-overs. I can only be better going forward. But forward doesn't heal the past. Last month, Rebecca mentioned she was cleaning out some old boxes in her garage. Said she was throwing away a bunch of stuff from high school. My heart stopped. I asked if she had found any old diaries or journals. She laughed and said no, thank God. She would die if anyone read the angsty teenage thoughts she used to write. I laughed too, pretended I had no idea what she meant. But inside I was thinking about that purple notebook, about the pain on every page, about the daughter I failed, about the secret I've carried for over a year now. Sometimes I wonder if she knows I read it, if she left that diary where I would find it on purpose, if she wanted me to know what she went through without having to tell me directly. But I don't think so. I think it was just chance, just me being nosy, just me violating her privacy and discovering a truth I can't unknow. My therapist asked me what I would say to 16-year-old Rebecca if I could go back, if I could talk to that suffering girl and tell her anything. I said I would tell her I'm sorry. Sorry for not seeing, sorry for not asking, sorry for being too wrapped up in my own grief to notice hers, sorry for making her feel like she had to protect me from her pain, sorry for failing her when she needed me most. But I can't go back, can't talk to 16-year-old Rebecca, can only live with the knowledge of what she went through and my failure to help her through it. Can only be better now, even though it's 30 years too late. I hope someday I'll be able to forgive myself, to accept that I was human, imperfect, grieving, overwhelmed, doing my best even though my best wasn't enough. But right now, a year after reading that diary, the guilt is still heavy. The knowledge is still painful. The failure still feels fresh. My daughter survived. She built a good life. She's happy now. That should be enough. That should let me off the hook. But it doesn't. Because she survived despite me, despite my absence, despite my failure to see her. She survived alone, and that's something I'll have to live with for the rest of my life. So that's my story. That's how I found my daughter's teenage diary 30 years later and discovered she had been suffering in ways I never imagined. That's how I learned I had failed her during the most critical years of her life.
That's how I've carried that guilt and that knowledge ever since. If you're a parent reading this, please learn from my mistakes. Really look at your kids. Ask how they're doing and wait for the real answer. Don't accept "I'm fine" at face value. Pay attention to changes in behavior, changes in appetite, changes in how they dress, changes in their engagement with life. Depression in teenagers doesn't always look like crying and sadness. Sometimes it looks like numbness and withdrawal and going through the motions. Create space for your kids to fall apart in front of you. Let them know their pain won't burden you, that you can handle their struggles, that you're there for the hard stuff, not just the easy stuff. Because if they don't feel safe coming to you, they'll suffer alone, just like my daughter did. And if you're someone who suffered as a teenager and your parents didn't notice, please know it wasn't because they didn't love you. It was because they were human, imperfect, overwhelmed, doing their best even if their best wasn't enough. They probably carry guilt about it even if they never say so, even if they never knew the full extent of what you went through. I'll probably never tell Rebecca I read her diary, probably never apologize for failing her all those years ago. We have a good relationship now, and I don't want to damage it by dredging up painful memories. But I carry the knowledge. I carry the guilt, and I try every day to be better, to be more present, to really see people instead of just looking at them, to ask the hard questions, to create space for truth instead of accepting comfortable lies. It's 30 years too late for 16-year-old Rebecca, but maybe it's not too late to be better now. Maybe that's all any of us can do. Learn from our failures, do better going forward, and hope that someday we can forgive ourselves for the times we fell short.